I would like to speak on behalf of reasonable people to apologize. Professor James Watson, the renowned geneticist and Nobel Prize laureate in the field of genetics, I would like to apologize on behalf of reasonable people for all the harm that deranged fanatics of D.E.I. have caused you. Delusional woke fanatics, as total ignoramuses, were unable to accuse you. They attacked the falsehood of scientific untruths from an ideological standpoint. Ideology was for them only tool to fight against you, and since they lacked scientific arguments, they decided to destroy you without discussion. You have been stripped of all functions and honorary titles, and you had to protect yourself from these fanatics. I would like to apologize to you, Professor, for your advanced age and your continued fearless stance against lies and evil. I fear that the professor did not anticipate being attacked by such ignorant, dull fanatics. Rodents from the Middle Ages or contemporary Islam who were ready to finish you off. These few sentences from the 2007 Sunday Times interview sparked a furious backlash from D.E.I. fanatics and intimidated colleagues in the field. Unfortunately, they were not made up out of thin air. They were not racist, as the accusers claimed, but stemmed from knowledge and the experience of a long life. The confirmation of this thesis is visible to the naked eye. Indeed, the black race develops at a different pace than the white or yellow race. This cannot be considered an accusation because each race developed in its own geographical and climatic conditions, and these were extremely different. They are simple and clear arguments. Portuguese explorers who reached the shores of sub-Saharan Africa in the 15th century saw a sight similar to what we find on that continent today. There is something in it, and you can't shout about it. The contemporary civilization structure that is found in Africa was imposed by people of another race, either white or yellow. The indigenous people were never the subject, but always the object in the development of civilization. One could say that a person of another race has returned to the roots of their continent from which they emigrated thousands of years ago. He came back and imposed his rule in a not-so-subtle way and built the infrastructure from the 19th century and later as well. An obvious example supporting the professor's thesis is the Republic of South Africa. Nothing more needs to be added. Is stating such a fact racism? No. No. It's just that each race develops at its own pace. People from outside who came to Africa and settled there created infrastructure whose indigenous inhabitants were unable to produce for thousands of years. Representatives of the white race, who were once black and left Africa thousands of years ago, encountered conditions in the north that were a challenge for them, meaning for their brains, and these brains had to develop in order to survive. Brains forced to innovate in order to survive for thousands of years have produced the level of civilization we see today. Similarly to the yellow race that changed direction a bit, but also headed north. But making an accusation that they are at a different level of development is absurd. Deranged individuals from D.E.I. accuse the white race of racism precisely on the basis that a difference in potential has arisen between the white and black races. Deranged individuals from D.E.I. accuse the white race of racism precisely on the basis that a difference in potential has arisen between the white and black races. It is precisely the brain stimulation that has lasted for many millennia in the white race that made it capable of conquering Africa in the 19th century. Meanwhile, the part of Homo sapiens that remained in Africa was not forced to stimulate the brain to the same extent as those who moved north. The difference in intellectual potentials of different races should not be used to dominate one over the others. The ostrich and the eagle are birds, even though one is flightless. As long as the ostrich does not have claims and grievances about its status compared to other birds, everything will be fine. The shameful consequence of this difference in potential was the colonial era and slavery. If we reject moral and ethical criteria and only consider natural laws, then unfortunately it had to be this way. The river does not flow upstream. The white race, starting from scratch, colonized North America over a period of 400 years and created a civilizational, technological, and military superpower. The only country in Black Africa with 21st century infrastructure is South Africa. D.E.I.'s fanatics also initially believed that the Asian minority should be supported. How is it possible that they managed? The explanation of this phenomenon in this situation is a huge difference in mentality between different races. The mentality of the Asian minority is a culture of science, work, and saving. Meanwhile, the lunatics of DEI even tried to bend the rules of science just to make it easier for the African American community to master. Thanks to Donald Trump becoming president, all these absurdities and nonsense will come to an end, and everyone will be judged by their skills, not the color of their skin. The end of injustice towards capable people of the wrong color.